Good morning, good afternoon, Rons and Rondas, and welcome back to the world's greatest podcast. And in this episode, we preview the upcoming showdown versus the 49ers, and we apologize for not being there for you Thanksgiving week, but we're here for you now as we embark on this holiday season. Let's get it. Look at it.
Where you at, Hootats? It's Pro Saints Talk back in your eardrums after a lot to be thankful following up that Thanksgiving Dirty Bird feast. A couple division wins, a third straight NFC South title, but as the shirt says, the South is not enough. We all know that. The guys that have been a part of the team the past two playoff runs know that. The shirt just reaffirms it. We want more. We want that one seed, and thanks to the Seahawks, thanks to the Ravens, beating the 49ers, it's well within reach. We got a great episode tonight previewing possibly the biggest game of the season, and we got the gang back together. George, my man, how we living?
Ron, we're lavish as always. It's been 2 wins since we talked to you last, and we need to give a big farewell to one Ron out there. Ron Rivera, the Panthers did you dirty. I can't believe you got fired before Dan Quinn, but man, you're a fellow Ron, so I have to give you a shout out. Hey, it's been a great 9 years going against you. For a while there, you had our number. Recently, we've had yours. I kind of feel like that was undeserved. I mean, he's done so well, the most winningest coach in Panthers history, and they cut him mid-season. Come on, give him a little. He deserves a little bit better than that. But we're not here to talk about the Panthers. We don't care about those little cats. We're here to talk about the Saints. And Jay, let us know how they're doing.
We're doing well over here, George. Ready to unleash the beast here tonight. Just watching the highlights from the Thanksgiving game, seeing Shy Tuttle make that play, one-handed interception, then gives Matt Ryan the vicious stiff arm. Saints are 10-2, big-time matchup coming up. On our way to clinching a home field advantage. Looking forward to talking about it tonight, Ron.
Absolutely. That play is going to live in Saints lore forever. We're going to tell our kids about it. We're going to tell our grandkids about it. They're going to tell their kids about it. The time that Shy Tuttle face planted, I mean, just put Matt Ryan in the freaking dirt. What a freaking play. What a GIF. It's taken over the internet. But lots more to talk about in these last couple division games. I mean, let's start with the most recent. What I thought was just clickbait night in America on Thursday night, coming out with the block punt, scoring a touchdown, just all over the field. The guy had what a night, but it wasn't all clean, George. So I guess let's talk about maybe what is going on with these Sean Payton teams racking up these penalties and making these games a lot closer than they need to be.
I was talking with Jansen that today on the car ride this afternoon, and I can't really put my finger on it. Jansen's going to tell you here in a second, we're probably one of the ugliest 10-2 teams we've seen in our lifetime. But it's always one step forward, one step back, and we find a way to eke out a win. The defense playing phenomenal, giving the offense fantastic field position. And whether it's wide receivers dropping the ball or Jared Cook dropping the ball or early down penalties, we're just not getting in a roll. And there's a lot you can point to. But this is the time now, as we approach the 49ers game, the last quarter of the season into the playoffs, where we need to start correcting this and letting it be our best football of the season. Because Drew Brees in his press conference this week says, man, we haven't played our best football, not even close to it yet this season. And I wholeheartedly agree, because we know what this team's capable of, but it's never been consistent. And it's time to begin the consistency. If we're truly a Super Bowl team, we need to put these games back to back to back, where we're a dominant offensive team like we've seen last year and the year before. And the one guy who can really generate this motor, to rev it up, is Alvin Kamara. Hasn't scored in 7 games. Let me repeat that, Ron. Alvin Kamara hasn't scored in
That's
7 games. This is the guy we need to get our offense back in top-notch form. So there's a lot of things to get nitpicky at, but to me, let's look at Kamara. What do you think, Jay?
Yeah, I think it depends on a couple guys. I think certainly missing Armstead hurts, but like you said, George, like we were talking about, the Saints through 12 games have won 10 games. And congratulations to the Saints. That's not easy to do. To win a game in the NFL, let alone 10 out of 12, is an accomplishment. So they deserve credit for that. But they've been winning differently, Ron, than the Saints that we've seen in the past. I feel like you're used to the Saints scoring 35, more than 40 points under the Sean Payton, Drew Brees offense. And the Saints right now are just kind of finding ways to win. I talked to a good friend of all three of ours, Nick Etchegary, Holy Name Gator alum, and I told him along the same sentiments that you just talked about, George, how, man, it's been ugly. It's probably the worst 10-win team through 12 games that I've seen. And he said that's a testament to how good this team is. Win ugly, win pretty later. He said the Patriot way. And I thought that was a good point. The Saints are finding ways to win. But number 9, to me, Brees, doesn't look the same as he's looked in past years. And the defense has to be really, really good to make up for it. I don't know what the Broncos a couple years ago when Peyton Manning was in his last season, he was splitting time with Osweiler. Their defense was dominant, if you remember, with DeMarcus Ware and Von Miller coming off the edge. I think our offense is better. The Saints' offense is better than that Broncos offense the year they won the Super Bowl. But going back to what I said last episode, I don't like the way this is trending, to be perfectly honest. It wasn't pretty against the Falcons. Talked about penalties a little bit, George. But in order for the Saints to make a run here, with it not being just totally one-sided fan optimistic thinking, like Marcus Davenport has to be the guy that he was last game. The whole defense, like Lattimore's got to be playing the best he's played his career, and everybody's got to pick their game up, similarly to how everybody picked their game up when Bridgewater went down. It's time for that. It's the last 3 miles in the marathon, last 5 miles of the 26.2-mile marathon. It's time to mash the gas for the Saints and everything they got, because they're not as uber talented as some previous years, but they got a strong team. I think they got depth like they haven't had, but not just the outright talent like they've had in past years.
Jay, I love all the points you're making, but I just want to point out that, yeah, they are finding different ways to win games. And yeah, they're getting some lucky breaks here with, Lord knows what is the deal with opposing kickers and playing the Saints. But, man, that's how these last couple of years have been. And I think if you go look at any double-digit win team ever, I mean, they have balls that bounce their ways. They have kicks that doink off the posts, from other teams. Look at last season, Browns game. Browns should have won that game. The kicker missed 2 field goals and 2 extra points.
Well, to your point, Ron, look at the 09 Saints and all the breaks they got. Thrown interception, Meacham strips the Redskins defensive back, runs in for a touchdown. That game against the Dolphins where they come back. So I'm with you. You do need breaks.
Exactly. I mean, Steelers last year, freaking Sheldon Rankins forcing that fumble on Juju. So, you got to have these plays that come about that change the outcome of your season and turn you from maybe a 9-win team to a 12-win team and maybe just a wild card to now a division winner vying for a first-round bye. So I think this team is getting all the right breaks to make it yet again another special year. And that was the biggest thing for me coming off the last 2 seasons, knowing all those things that had to fall in place, all of that serendipity, all of that luck, whatever you want to call it. For it to be lining up again like this is really something special. But you highlighted a great point. We're entering into the 4th quarter of the season, and hey, we're already guaranteed to be playing overtime. So we got to be ready, and these guys got to step up. And more than ever, offensive line. I mean, we knew this day would come. At the midseason report episode, I said my biggest surprise of the year was Teron Armstead being healthy through the first 8 games. And wouldn't you freaking know it, 2 weeks ago against Carolina, he gets hurt, and Patrick Omame has to come in. And hey, he's done a pretty serviceable job, George. Am I right? And combine that with Andrews Pete dropping out and Nick Easton stepping up. I mean, these are the kinds of performances that show your championship medal. But George, is it going to be enough down the stretch?
Well, forget down the stretch. You got the Niners. You got DeForest Buckner. You got Lil Bosa. You got Eric Armstead. You got D Ford. You have 4 of the NFC's best D linemen all playing together, not to mention draft bust Solomon Thomas, who's had a sign of life. This is a very, very, very talented defensive line. And even when you have Teron Armstead, they're very troublesome. So are we worried about Omame? Of course we are. Has he looked good so far? Yeah, he's played well. Serviceable. Big hats off to Nick Easton because he stepped in and played better than Clemente in the Clemente role as your first guy off the bench on the offensive line. But guys, I'm not trying to toot our horn here as we play Twitter GM, but this whole offseason, in the draft episodes, we said this would happen and we should draft a left tackle. We had Cajuste and Little circled as guys were looking at because you knew this was going to happen. So we wish there was just a little bit more cushion. But, hey, there's a little light at the end of this tunnel because Teron Armstead practiced today. He practiced today. So we can debate on whether or not it's a good idea to throw him in now versus the 49ers or instead of, waiting until we play them in the playoffs when he's fully healthy. But having him out there, if he's healthy, you really have to like your chances against this D-line.
George, I'll start that debate right now, and I'm saying if he's even remotely close, you got to play him. This game means too much for the seeding. I mean, Jay, thoughts on that? I think if he is remotely close, he's got to go.
Yeah, and the Saints didn't give up a sack last week, and let's not take anything away from Omamame. But I think both you guys probably noticed that the Saints were, when they threw the ball, it was a lot of 3-step drops. It wasn't a lot of 5-7-step drops. So they're trying to get rid of the ball fast. So while they allowed 0 sacks against the Falcons, and I think the week before there might have been 0 sacks allowed after Omamame came in for Armstead, Breeze was getting rid of it fast. Breeze didn't even throw for 200 yards last week against the Falcons. So you've seen, Ron, in past years, when Armstead's out there, the Saints average about 33 points a game. When he's not out there, they average about 23 points a game. And I think that's stats from last year. I don't have StatRun to check me on that, but it just seems that Breeze is a whole lot more comfortable, can breathe a little bit easier when Armstead is protecting his blind side. And George, I understand what you're thinking, save him for when it really matters. But man, the Saints couldn't get it done in the NFC Championship against the Rams last year at home. But home field advantage for a team, for especially this Saints team, and going back to my point earlier, how they're just not, it's not Drew Brees of 33 years old. Home field advantage gives the Saints, what do they say in Vegas, at least 6 points. So the playoff, it's cliche, but the playoffs start right now. This is as important as a playoff game. So if he can go,
what's more important than a 1 seed? The 6 points you just mentioned is a healthy Teron Armstead. He's as important almost as Ramczyk and Mike Thomas, if not equally as important. So to throw him out there a bit early, as you saw, Tua being thrown out there on a hobbled ankle, and then a worse injury occurred. We're going to play the Niners twice. We're going to play them once in the regular season and once in the playoffs. It could be in California. It could be in the Dome. Do we prefer the Dome? Of course. But we can't go into the playoff matchup or the playoffs as a whole without a healthy Teron Armstead, or you can throw the Lombardi Trophy away. Let that big man heal.
You know how you throw it away? You start Omamame in the first, or you start Teddy Bridgewater or the third-string quarterback because this 49ers defensive line is vicious. If Armstead is questionable and he thinks he can go, send him out there because I haven't watched much of the 49ers this year, but they play fast, physical, and they get after you, and that defensive line gets after you. So it's football. You're not going to be able to rest every week for the stretch. I'm not saying throw him out there if he's in danger of hurting himself a lot worse, but if he can go and he's 80, 85%, then get out there and do the job.
Yeah, Jay, to your point, I mean, it's not just Breeze being, less comfortable. It's Peyton being less comfortable. It was a cognizant game plan this past weekend with the Falcons, with Breeze getting the ball out in record time. I think Duncan pointed it out. He was 2.34 seconds average drop back time. So, yeah, that is a cognizant effort. And this freaking defense reminds me of the last time we had the 49ers in the Dome where Breeze turned into a bronchosaurus, I think. I mean, his neck stretched out about 6 inches, I think, on one particular hit. So yeah, we got to watch out for him. And I think you're absolutely right.
Brooks.
Yeah, Ahmad Brooks on that blitz nearly took Breeze's head off. And, oh, by the way, Breeze is only more fragile now. So, yeah, I think you have to get Armstead out there. It's too important. But I kind of want to shift topics right now and talk about special teams and some of the concerns we're seeing there that might nick us on a close game like this week or even future in the postseason. We're seeing some special plays on special teams, to quote my man Robert Meacham, with the Taysom Hill pump block. But then there have been 5 onside kicks allowed in the NFL this year, and the Saints have allowed 3 of them. And they technically allowed 3 in this past week's game. Only 2 of them counted. George, what is going on these plays? And do we need your hands out there on the hands team?
Put me in the game, Coach. I won't disappoint. I love the Meacham shout-outs. Meacham, if you're listening, you're cordially invited to join us on one episode. We've been a big fan of yours since we were wee little hoodats, and we love you for everything you've done for us. So I love these Meacham shout-outs.
Napoli might have a hookup. He's coaching at De La Salle now.
You heard it here first. Napoli, set it up, my man. And, guys, if you like Pels like you like the Saints and you need more Pels in your life, check out your boy Napoli, Pro Pels Talk. He does top-notch work with your boy Offna. But anyway, Ron, to your question, and I want to say this about Kamara, because we kind of breezed through, hey, he hasn't scored 7 touchdowns. That onside kick where the ball was coming to him and he made the business decision to sidestep away from it to avoid a payao is more ingredients to the gumbo of him looking off. There's his body language. We kept saying that when we all sat together at the Panthers game. What's up with Kamara? What's up with Kamara? So a lot of that onside kick was Kamara not wanting to catch it. Put Josh Hill. He'll get his hands dirty. Put Taysom Hill out there. He'll get his hands dirty. Get that big Dutchman, Vanderlars, to catch that kick. Get a big guy in there. He's not afraid of a little contact to get it. Something's off with Kamara. Something behind the scenes we might hear about after the season. But we need the Kamara of last year with the airheads and the gold teeth. That's what we need right now because he's not the same guy. And for the Super Bowl run, we need that. But, Ron, yeah, the special teams, we had that gaff. But we've also have Taysom Hill blocked a punt. Lutz is back on fire. Morris is back on fire. And I think you'll see Harris get one more touchdown to end this quarter of the season.
Well, Jay, I guess I want to kick it to you. Maybe you can speak a little bit on it from your days on the S9 squad, even though y'all were runners-up in the championship. I know there are some problems blocking the onside kicks. I know we're missing blocks, but it just seems like we're sitting back waiting on a hop. And, when you're playing on these fields, man, you're just waiting for that ball to hit that patch of crabgrass, take that big hop over you. You got to come up and charge these, right? Can't be afraid.
Yeah, I've got some empathy for Kamara because playing on those fields at Perry Rome, you never know which way the ball is going to hop. But in the Mercedes Dome, it's a little bit more predictable. But, Ron, I actually heard a former special teams coach talking to today. We were talking about the onside kick, and he explained that why there's more success with it lately and this year is due just because it's so hard to practice. Like, you can't practice that. In an NFL practice, it's almost like, man, these guys, they don't even go 40% out here. And they're not going to do kickoff, let alone, they'll walk through onside kicks, but it looks a little bit different in the game when those guys are sprinting right at you. And George is exactly right. Kamara, that's his job to catch that ball, and he didn't do it, and he missed it twice. And then they put Michael Thomas in there, who hasn't done it all year, and then just doesn't know what the hell he's doing. So, yeah, I think it comes down to it's a tough thing to practice for any team receiving the ball, and I think there's things fundamentally that the Saints could have done better, like you mentioned, Ron, blocking, but it didn't seem like a good time to be the Saints special teams coach right there. He couldn't have got farther away from Sean Payton. It looked like Payton was staring right through him. So it couldn't have been much fun for him.
No, but I tell you what has been fun, Jay, is the last couple weeks watching these Saints games with my bros and watching the emergence of y'all's boy, Jared Cook. Look, we had the pleasure of all sitting together for the Panthers game, and we just kept, nudging elbows every catch, saying, hey, it's not too late to make that Pro Bowl run. And sure enough, man, it looks like he's finally getting that comfort level, that relationship, maybe getting Breeze back. It's all coming together. It's all fitting up right. Jay, I mean, can he still reach 1,000 yards? He only needs about, 600-700 more?
He needs 343 yards to get it. So, George, real quick, what's 343 divided by 4? Can he get it? He might be able to get it. But
84, 80, 85 and change, dog? Yeah. 88.
He's got the last couple games. He had 89 yards last game, George, and he should have had about 140 yards and a touchdown. It was a good effort, but the alligator arms a 30-yard pass down the field on the sideline and then drops an easy touchdown. I mean, those are the touchdowns that Cook has to have, Breeze has to have when he hits him in the hands. But to another point, I think a lot of times as fans, we want to see these guys, especially free agents and guys that we draft. Maybe we have a little bit more patience with rookies, but free agents, we look at their production somewhere else. We don't really have the patience, I think, when we're looking in on it, especially for a relationship like receiver and quarterback or tight end and quarterback. I think what you're seeing now with Breeze and Cook is it's kind of that deep relationship now that they have 10 games underneath their belt where if Breeze makes this subtle movement this way, Cook's going to break this way. And that's not something that just happens off the bat in games 1 through 4. And I think you're seeing that develop now where Breeze is really starting to rely on Cook. Maybe Cook understands Breeze a lot more, and it's something that just naturally develops the more familiar the two players are with one another, especially quarterback and tight end. So hopefully, he continues his success, and he's critical, because obviously the Saints don't have a true number 2 receiver outside of Michael Thomas.
Yeah, that is an obvious fact. It's also kind of just talking about number 2s and depth and some other unfortunate injuries that have occurred in these last couple of weeks. George, we're getting a little thin at linebacker now. I mean, Demario Davis still holding it down, still an absolute dog out there. No disrespect to my boy Craig Robertson, the junkyard dog, but in the past couple of weeks, we've seen Klein and Kiko go down, and we've seen some old familiar faces reemerge. So tell us what's going on with linebacker depth. And again, are we going to make it through this week, the final stretch?
Hey, 2017, all those in the Dome had a lot of fun with the junkyard dog and Manzi Te'o, namely that Redskins comeback game. Fantastic substitute performance by Junkyard Dog once again with a sack last week versus the Falcons. Bobby Hebert said, boy, if he has to play this week, he's quite the liability. You're going to see the 49ers attack him. I've never thought the Junkyard Dog was a liability. I love Craig Robertson. He's a feisty little fucker. I'm sorry for cursing, Martha, but he's a feisty little linebacker. I love the junkyard dog. Bring in roll dog Manti Te'o back. If you really want to see him excel, get Banjo back from the Cardinals, and you can really see him go full Ron. But look, we're banged up linebacker through the course of the season. You've seen a lot of injuries. Ellis, we've lost Anzalone, we've lost Klein. Now we've lost Kiko. It's a lot of linebackers at one position. Not to forget Jansen's boy Martin. Josh Martin's on IR too. So we're very thin at linebacker. Had to bring Manti Te'o off the streets. So what does that mean? You're going to see a lot of nickel. You're going to see a lot of dime. You know, P-Rob has been playing more and more this season as it's progressed. He's going to get more action. CJ, boy, do we love him. Kind of taking a step back recently. Maybe PJ is solidifying that role as a slot corner, which I'm cool with going into the playoffs. But Ron, I got a question for you. Because for the first time since Eli Apple's first game versus the Vikings, I'm a bit concerned on what we have in him. At this point, what do you think we have in Eli Apple?
Well, I think we got a matchup vulnerability depending on who we're playing. I mean, we said going into this year that the Falcons had some weapons on offense. I mean, Calvin Ridley is no joke. And we got lucky that Julio Jones sat this past week, couldn't go on the short week. And you know, we thought, oh, yeah, well, we'll throw Eli Apple on Ridley because that's what we would have done normally. So keep the same matchup because Eli's been watching film on him all week. Yeah, that lasted for, I think, maybe a couple drives, maybe a quarter. And then Dennis Allen said, all right, Eli, yeah, knock it down a peg. Let's put Lattimore on him. And we recovered. But, yeah, George, he's starting to look like just about every other free agent corner that we bring in, getting way too handsy, not making plays on the ball, just not thinking sometimes, you know, playing situational ball. So, you know, we put corners in vulnerable positions on this defense all the time. We demand a lot from them by doing this man coverage. But we do that because it's part of our strategy, because we get a pretty good pass rush out of our front four, keeping all 8 of those guys fresh up there. But you're going to see this from time to time.
Is he healthy?
He was healthy enough to go Thursday. He's had 10 days rest. I think he's healthy. But that's not where I'm worried about matchups. George just got done breaking down linebackers, and I'm worried about a guy named George Kittle and, oh, by the way, the second best rushing attack in the league. So it's going to stretch these linebackers really thin. Are you going to have Demario Davis focus on Kittle and pass coverage, or is Demario Davis going to have to be that run stopper that he always is? So, you know, it's really going to be a challenge. And then if George is right and we're playing a bunch of nickel and dime, is CJ going to have to be the guy that covers Kittle? Is he big enough to do that? I think
it's going to be kind of interrupt. I'm sorry. Von Bell's in a guard Kittle. No ifs, ands, or buts.
No, that's that's what I want to hear. I want to hear that because I don't know that CJ is ready to go up against maybe the second best tight end in the league. So I think that this is going to be a matchup that I'm not too worried about Eli Apple, to answer that question at length, George. But I guess let's talk a little bit more about some of these matchups that we're scared of. We kind of talked about this D-line. George, I know you've done a lot of work on this D-line. I mean, we've talked about Bosa before on this podcast. We think he's a shoe-in for Rookie of the Year. You got this guy, DeForest Buckner. I mean, they have some serious talent. I was telling you today, I think they're better than when they had Alton Smith and Justin Smith terrorizing teams. What are your thoughts on this D-line? And can Peyton come up with a scheme similar to this past week to slow him down and stop him?
First of all, Peyton can always come up with a scheme, aside from the fact if he's not getting engaged that week. So if he's not getting engaged, heck yeah, we're going to be A-okay. This whole team, okay, the D-line's great. The San Francisco 49ers are a really good team. They're not a great team, a la last year's Chicago Bears. who had a great D-line with Akeem Hicks and, of course, Khalil Mack. We can beat them. We can be a great team. We can also be a very okay team, very okay. We play our best football. It's better than the 49ers' best football. So, Ron, you want to take a little matchups. We're better than them. We're going to beat them on Sunday if we put our best foot forward. This is not a team that, I'm terrified of Kittle. Oh, Tevin Coleman. Oh, Wilson. Oh, Emmanuel Sanders. Oh, Debo Samuel. Like, they have all these talented guys, but they're not world beaters. This isn't a very great team that has me trembling. They do a lot of things really well, and they have a good coach in Shanahan. The Atlanta Falcons never should have let him go. They should have made him his head coach, not Quinn, instead of letting him go to the 49ers to win over there. But, hey, better for the Saints. So, no, Ron, I'm not worried about any one particular matchup. They're going to score points. They're going to be a tough opponent. But this is a team we can handle.
Well, I guess I would challenge you on if they are going to score points. But I guess before we get to any kind of predictions, Jay, one of the matchups that I am concerned about, you already highlighted that this isn't the aerial attack of old, 33-year-old Breeze days. I mean, he was sub 200 yards this past week. And, you could find reasons for that. But this 49ers defense is going to come in with a game plan. And tell me the last time you heard this. Hey, we're going to stop the run and make Breeze beat us. That is what they're going to come in and do. They want to stop the run because they are the number one passing defense in the league. I mean, that is so ridiculous, bizarro Saints world that we're living in right now, that we have a defense coming in right now that's saying, yeah, we want Breeze to try to beat us. So, Jay, how does that make you feel? And did you see enough in these last couple of weeks out of Breeze to have any level of confidence that he's going to rip this team apart?
No, I wouldn't say rip apart, but I think he's still a good enough quarterback where if you give him time and you let him sit back there, regardless of who's playing receiver, he's going to find guys, but guys on this team need to make plays. Looking at Kamara the last couple of weeks, he really hasn't done much receiving. Last week, he had 23 yards receiving against the Falcons. And then the week before that, he had 48 yards receiving. I want to see one of those 100-yard games from Alvin Kamara. I think there's a fan question that relates to his receiving role with this team. He's a guy that needs to emerge as a receiver and just emerge, period, like George touched on earlier. But no, Ron, to answer your question, I think Breeze is still a guy that if you give him the time, he's gonna find the receivers and they're gonna make plays. So I do hope that they do stop the run game and that's their plan and put 8 in the box and let Breeze go against an aging Richard Sherman in that secondary.
Yeah, Ron, I wish they would. You act like he's Phillip Rivers. Yeah, he's depreciating. And after the Panthers game, you and I had an hour-long chat on our drive home that he's not who he was. But I wish they would underestimate Drew Brees. He still has enough tank in the tank to beat him. So if they want to go 8 in the box, Brees is going to have a field day. He can still do it. I'm not going to say he's going to do it next year, the year after that, but he can beat the 49ers if they want to say, beat us, Brees. No doubt about it.
Hey, man, I'm not discrediting him. I'm not knocking him down. I'm just telling you this defense is going to want to play to their strengths. Hey, 3rd and longs, stop the run. But so does every defense. What, Jay?
Kind of on that subject with the 49ers coming in trying to stop the run, can Sean Payton please figure out how to utilize Latavius Murray, meaning give him more than 4 carries a game? Please run him 10 to 15 times right up the middle, set up play action. I don't care how good this team is against the run, because obviously when this guy gets on a roll, we saw it in that stretch there in the middle of the season against the Bears where he has plus 100 yards. The next game he has. Please figure out how to use him, and then use Kamara.
Jay, you're spoiling our man Bird's question, dude. I was going to tee this one up for you because he said, are you worried Peyton's overthinking the second half play calling, not using Latavius?
Yeah, well, obviously. I mean, the proof's in the pudding, as they say. It's been successful handing the ball off to him, But the thing is, George, in those games that Latavius was successful, Alvin was on the sideline. So maybe Alvin's moping a little bit because somebody else was getting the love, and then when they're both in there, it seems like Peyton just hasn't figured out how to use those guys together the way he figured it out with Ingram and Alvin.
He's playing politics, man. You can tell he's playing politics, trying to appease both. It's kind of like the old saying, if you can't make your decision and you go out wearing one black shoe and one brown shoe, then the compromise is lost. So they need to figure out how to make this work because, like you just said, it's broken.
Yeah, I mean, the Carolina game, I'm pretty sure Latavius had maybe 8 carries or so. He was averaging 9 yards a carry, and I think he barely touched it in the second half. Stu's on it. I mean, that is 100% visible. Second half, we're not putting these teams away, and we're letting them creep back in because we can't establish a consistent flow in the run game. And it's mind-boggling because Peyton's been able to do it with so many other two-headed running attacks.
And Ron, I think we're near worst in the league in fourth quarter scoring production.
Yikes, man!
I want to say one thing.
Go.
Let me. Okay, so guys, we've talked about worst 10-2 team, worst fourth quarter production. Breeze is losing his arm strength. We can't make the dual backfield work properly. Ron's out there. We have to remember the timing of the season. We're coming out of Thanksgiving, a lot to be thankful for. Christmas, we count our blessings. All right, we need to also be a little bit more optimistic, a little bit more thankful for all the blessings that have been bestowed upon us this season. You still have Cam Jordan leading the league in sacks. You have Marcus Davenport, who's clearly worth 3 first-round picks. You have Mike Thomas leading Pro Bowl votes, Von Bell leading in Pro Bowl votes, Marcus Williams leading in Pro Bowl votes. We have a lot to be thankful for. I don't want to sound so glum and hee-haw, but the fact that we're 10-2, we won the fucking division. Sorry again for cursing, Mom. I know that's not good. But hey, guys, let's be a little bit more appreciative of what we have here.
That's a good reminder, but obviously, George, too, the standard is to win the Super Bowl. And that's the standard that we're talking about, is getting past the NFC Championship game. And not only getting into the Super Bowl, but winning the Super Bowl. I think that's the expectation of all Saints fans coming into the season. So I'm not trying to say that the sky is falling and the Saints are just terrible, but more just pointing out the things, the deficiencies to this point in the season that can be corrected in order to allow the Saints to win a Super Bowl for the second time in 10 years.
Yeah, Jay. See, you're taking that inside the locker room approach, and George is getting us back on that fan side. And hey, I appreciate that, George. By the fans, for the fans, pro Saints talk. Hey, you just shouted out Cam Jordan on this podcast, George. I thought you were just going to give us the old ho-hum. Cam Jordan's good at football again. Oh. 4 sacks, bro.
No, but you throw me that question when we're debating about Davenport. Like, there's no take to make. Everyone knows Cam Jordan's fantastic.
All right. What do you think about Davenport, Ron?
I was just about to say, Jay, 6 sacks, 4 games left. How you feeling about that 10-sack prediction?
I guess I won't have to shave my legs a la Ron, 6th grade, Holy Name Gators.
Wow, dude, 7th grade. Jeez. Okay, the things you do for women. All right, George, matchups that we love. Dude, I don't fear Jimmy Garoppolo. I don't fear this receiving core. I mean, they think they're hot shit because they got Emmanuel Sanders. Sorry, Martha, for dropping the S word. They think they're hot stuff because they got Emmanuel Sanders in a trade. Yeah, am I a little bit jealous? Yes. But other than that, this passing game is near inept, and I think you saw it get exposed a little bit by the Seahawks and by the Ravens, really putting Garoppolo in these high-pressure situations, and that's exactly what I think this D-line can get him in. It's these high-pressure situations, Cam Jordan, Davenport, T-Rex, all these dudes breathing down his neck. George,
wait,
what?
Let me give you a name. Sheldon Rankins did the wiggle again. And that entire Falcons game, I get this a horrible offensive line looking like a bunch of high schoolers out there trying to block an NFL D-line. But I saw Big Wiggle looking like Big Wiggle of last year, and it made my heart warm. I think Sheldon Rankins is back to who he was. He had the devastating Achilles tear in January. Everyone says, oh, it was last year. Yeah, it was last playoffs. It was January. Okay? This guy came back soon. He's looking great. And look at our DTs. You got Onyemata. Fantastic. One of those unsung heroes on this team. Malcolm Brown, great free agent signing, always creating disruption in the backfield. He's like a wrecking ball out there. And then you have Mario Edwards Jr. that can kind of do it all. And Shy Tuttle, what more can I say other than the stiff arm? So what do I like? I like our DTs because they're going to have to play the best game of their season against this running back group. You got Mostert, however you want to say it, a guy from Purdue. You got Tevin Coleman, Shanahan's friend from the Falcons. You got Breida, you got Wilson. These are 4 very capable running backs, very apt. Apt is a word. It's the opposite of inept. Very capable running backs. But who's going to stop them? Our 4 DTs led by our man, Sheldon Rankins.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that's a great matchup. I love the analysis, George. Jay, what kind of matchups are you favoring the Saints in this upcoming week?
Favoring the Saints in, I guess going back to the defensive line, is Joe Staley playing? I know he's getting more healthy in his 14th season at 35 years old. Probably a first, second ballot Hall of Famer. Let's see Cam Jordan, Marcus Davenport go against him and get after Garoppolo, get that noise meter to 110, 115 in the dome. I want to see, George, these San Francisco 49ers receivers that I feel like tie into the Saints team a little bit, because you remember around October when all Saints fans were saying, are we going to trade for A.J. Green? Are we going to trade for Emmanuel Sanders? Emmanuel Sanders has gone to the 49ers and has found the fountain of youth, so to speak, has produced very well for the 49ers team. And then another guy that, if you scroll back to our March-April episode, pre-draft episode, we talked about Deebo Samuel a lot. He's a guy that's really blossomed in the last 4 to 5 weeks. So I want to see how our corners match up against those receivers. Although they aren't the big name, scary type guys, they are very efficient in other ways. So it'll be fun to watch them. And then, Ron, you talked about George Kittle a little early on. It seems like the Saints have done a good job against tight ends this season. Austin Hooper had some success the first time the Falcons played the Saints. But Kittle, man, he's fun to watch play the game of football. He plays hard. He's tough. He's a great athlete. All the accolades, all the superlatives. So let's see how the Saints D does against George Kittle, and hopefully being banged up at linebacker doesn't hurt us too much against Kittle.
All right. Well, at this point in the show, I think I'd like to break it up and let's go to the Fantasy Minute now because, hey, it's week 14 in fantasy. Some people's playoffs are starting. If they're not starting, this is nitty gritty, when to get in time. So they're going to need to know about those sleepers. They're going to need to know about these key injuries, the key pickups to win their matchups. So let's kick it right now to the French Quarter Realty Fantasy Minute.
All right, we're back with another French Quarter Realty Fantasy Minute. This time on the program, we have George Johnson, that's back from his 4-week hiatus, and Hannah Berger chimed in for the first time. George, what type of advice do you have for the listeners this weekend?
Thanks, Jansen. If you're listening to this, you're probably in the fantasy playoffs, and if so, I just have a few words of advice. I wouldn't get too cute with your lineup. I would stick with the people who got you there. You'll look at rankings this week for quarterbacks where you have people like Matt Ryan and Carson Wentz and Baker Mayfield ranked ahead of Lamar Jackson, Deshaun Watson, Patrick Mahomes. I would just stick with the people who have been consistent throughout the season and not play too much towards the matchup. As far as the defense, you want to think about who's going to be good this week and maybe next week, and maybe pick up one or two. Steelers got a good lineup. Arizona and Buffalo. Ravens are playing Buffalo and the Jets. Jaguars are playing the Chargers in Oakland. So don't worry about keeping too many people on your bench. Just pick up that extra defense in case you're lucky enough to get to the next round.
All right. Thank you, George. Next up, we have Hannah, who's first in all 3 of her leagues heading into the playoffs. And she has some fantasy advice for you here.
Thanks, Jansen. I really think we should look out for Traquan Smith this week. I expect Smith to have at least 2 touchdowns in the romp over the Niners.
All right, it's great to have some proper fantasy aficionados, not Jansen out there blinding the blind on fantasy hot takes. But hey, talk about hot, talk about cold. I don't know what the weather's going to be like this Sunday. UTO. Only if we had someone that could give us this information, like Red, the weatherman.
Hey, Rons, it's Red, the weatherman. And man, is week 14 in the NFL looking to be a big one as the 10-2 Saints look to take on the 10-2 San Francisco 49ers. And this game will truly be a clash of the Titans, as I wouldn't be surprised to see both of these teams in the NFC Championship. Anyway, Rons, let's get right into it, as this is a 12 o'clock game at home in the Superdome. I expect a high of 70 degrees with a 5% chance of rain and southwest winds of 6 to 8 miles per hour. Basically, Rons, it's going to be beautiful. You need to get out there early. You need to get nice and lubed up with some White Claws and LaCroix, and make sure you're ready to cheer louder than we ever have all season for this huge matchup. Anyway, Rons, I expect the temperature inside the dome at kickoff to be 70 degrees. And I expect the Saints to come away with an epic win and set a precedent for the rest of the year. Anyway, Rons, remember, whether you like it or not, it's Red, the weatherman.
Well, all right, Red, and we hope to see you out there in the elements. Everybody under the overpass. All right, this brings us to a really exciting segment of the show. We got a lot of fan interaction this week. So we already highlighted our man Bird asking a real hard-hitting, cross-cutting question about Peyton and the play calling. So maybe let's lighten it up a little bit. And George, we got Graham Young Shafe on the Instagram asking Tua or Mariota, obviously implying 2020 quarterback for the Saints.
I wouldn't take Mariota if he was for free. So Tua 10-1.
Okay, all right. Well, okay, so follow up for you right here from your boy Juan. Can we pull off a Ricky Williams-esque move to move up in the draft and take your boy Joe Burrow?
No need. The air is already in-house.
Obviously implying Teddy Bridgewater, which, hey, number 5's got 5 wins on the year. You can't argue with that right now.
I didn't say that. I didn't say that. I didn't say that. I said the air is in-house. I didn't say it was Bridgewater.
All right, Sean P.
So who is it?
Okay. Okay, we got the next one here from our boy Tony Bois J. What kind of tailgate trinkets will we have this week? Are we going to have a football? Are we going to have enough beer? Are we going to have a chair? Hey, you never know what you're going to get under UTO.
Yeah, I'm thinking this week, 21, this is going to be the biggest tailgate that the 2019-2020 season has seen to this date. It's going to be popping. We're going to have DJ Slug out there playing his music, Boogie with the LaCroix. Maybe he'll have some ice in that purse with the LaCroix ice down, some beer flowing, maybe even some ice chests. I think it's going to be the best turnout. Instead of 36 guys, there's probably going to be about 55 guys, maybe a couple females in there, and it's going to be rolling. So be there early. You know, Boogie's going to come noon kickoff. He's going to be there at 11. Is it a noon kickoff, Ron?
It is a noon kickoff. No flex on this one. Had
no flex.
TV restrictions. So no flex zone.
Boogie will be there at 11. But get out there 9:30. And, hey, don't count on somebody else to bring the trinkets. If you want the trinkets, bring the ice chest. Bring the grill. Bring the speakers. Let's let it rock. Let's go.
I love it, Jay, and citing some accountability and some ownership. Hey, you highlighted DJ Doug on the ones and twos. George, this question was specifically submitted to you by our boy Sweaters, our UTO correspondent. What is the best song to play under the overpass?
Big timers, big ballin'. 1, 2, Horace Trahan, however you want to say it, Trahan, the butt thing.
Oh, that one did. That one was well received at the Panthers tailgate, no doubt. Hey, so all right, we got just a couple more here from our dear friends at Propels Talk. I want to kick this one back to you, George. And Offner is kind of calling us out. He's saying, hey, is the PST team going to join the PP team at their tailgate this week? We have tables.
Wow. Tables. Wow. I don't know if we can pass up on such accommodations and amenities. We also have a flag. But often what you don't have is a damn shade. You don't have shelter. You don't have an overpass. That sounds very dangerous to me to be out there, exposed to the sun. Our boy Ron overcame skin cancer today. So I just felt like, Ron, I'm going to stay in the shade, in the shelter, under the overpass till I die. Can I get an amen?
Amen to that, George. Hey, look, at this time of the year, week 14 of the season, everybody's dealing with injuries, including your boy Ron, but you got to play through them. No excuses. Play like a champion, baby. All right, hey, we got one more from Propels Talk. Napoli, Jay is asking, can Cam Jordan come play center for the Pels? Hey, they're really struggling without Zion, huh, Jay?
Yeah, more like can Sean Payton go coach the Pels? They did the merger a couple years ago where Mickey Loomis was the GM for both teams. I think they need some help with the X's and O's falling apart in the last couple of minutes in so many games. It hurts. Man, can't wait till Zion gets there. I know the rest of New Orleans can as well, but Pellies, keep on keeping on. When we got into this deal with David Griffin, we didn't say we were going to be great. We were going to be world beaters in 20 games. We said we're going to be world beaters in 2020, 2021. But, hey, it needs to be a little bit better. And, Cam Jordan would bring some toughness. So maybe he's just across the parking lot on Airline.
Okay, let's get back to some harder hitting, some more critical questions. George, this is coming from my brother from another mother, another Barrios. With Murray showing that he has the ability to be the lead back in our offense, is it time to essentially shift Kamara to wide receiver 2 and have Murray be the feature back of this offense?
Well, can I just say, Cam Jordan would make a terrible center. What is he, like 6'4"? He's going to be 7 inches taller than every other center in the NBA. It's a horrible idea.
No, George, you're used to 2002 NBA basketball. Draymond Green's playing center for the Warriors. How tall is he? 6'6"? Come on.
He's 6'7". He's always their 4. They've had Andrew Bogut or another guy play the 5. We need to find a way to get Kamara more involved. Putting him at officially the wide receiver 2 is a bit cute, in my opinion. But putting him out wide on 3rd and 5 to catch that Kamara bailout that we do every time we need a big first down, more of that. More Sean Payton trickery. Just get innovation and creativity on how to get Kamara the ball in new ways. Because since the Jaguars game, I don't even recognize him out there. He catches the ball and doesn't break a tackle like he used to. He used to make multiple guys miss every time he had the balls in his hand. He used to be faster than every other guy out there and make the game look so simple and easy. It was just a joy to watch. It was like Lionel Messi playing soccer. He's just on a whole nother level. We haven't seen that in a while. And it's on Sean Payton, maybe on the field or, hey, a private talk in the locker room to get this guy back to where he belongs on time.
Well, in his defense, George, I mean, you have to appreciate how Peyton is using him without the ball. I mean, he's a big reason that Taysom Hill had that breakaway 30-yard run untouched because he put him in motion, brought a linebacker, out of the picture. So to me, I think he's still using him in very creative ways, but it's tough year after year to be that go-to guy to make these joystick plays week after week. So I do think he's probably dealing with some injuries, and we need to see a little bit more out of him. But I'm expecting a postseason performance from him, a la Reggie Bush 09, where he just kind of takes it to another level and just empties the tank. That's what I'm expecting. So, all right, let's shift it to George. I want to kick it right back to you because I got the next one for Jay. LeRon is asking, how come nobody celebrates when T-Rex gets a sack? We're all just jumping up and down, hooting and hollering when our boy Davenport gets a sack.
I don't. Maybe that was meant to be a rhetorical question. I don't know. Can someone show T-Rex some love? I will.
I'm pretty sure we were putting up the T-Rex arms doing the dance up in the Carolina game. I can't remember, though. But, yeah, dude, I think – well, George, tell me if you agree with this. You think it's just the fact that, we have way more stock invested in Davenport, right?
I think LeRon was referring to the teammates because whenever he sacks the quarterback, he just puts his finger up and does a little twirl thing. And you don't see the excitement on the rest of the defensive line. T-Rex, he always causing fights in training camp with his teammates. Maybe he's not the most well-liked guy in that locker room. I think LeRon's saying that not a lot of his teammates show him love when he gets a sack.
Oh, I think that's a good point. Yeah, they might hate him. All right, so Jay, we kind of hit on this, but what are your thoughts on why this team has struggled to put teams away this year? This is coming from our boy Yancey.
Hunter, I think it's a lot of things. I think bad penalties at critical junctures in the game. Like you go back to the Panthers game and how many holding calls on 3rd and 1, 4th and 1. And it might not seem like a big deal at the time, but what happens if you convert that first down? Like the Saints have to be better about committing penalties. And yes, it's easy to point to the guy in the black and white stripes, the referees, and blame it all on them. But for it to continue week after week, and not just the holding calls, but the false start calls, the things that you can control, that's on Sean Payton to lead the most disciplined team in the NFL, which should be the goal of every coach. So penalties have a lot to do with it, I think, and just the attitude of finishing the game. That's got to be a point of emphasis for the coaching staff and the offense especially. I think it's been early on in the season, the defense was letting teams back in, but the Saints have to keep their foot on the gas for all 4 quarters and finish the game. And it goes back to Stu's point, hand the ball to Latavius Murray and let him pound it, because that would be a hell of an identity to find in this last quarter of the season going into the Super Bowl. Let's ride that guy and then use play action and let number 9 deliver.
Hell yeah, buddy. Dude, you just got me fired up right there. Hey, let's kick it to game predictions before we close out with a special Ron of the Week. So, game predictions. Who wants to start, George or Jay?
Jay wants to start.
All right, so I'm thinking 49ers are hungry. Just came off a loss to Baltimore. They haven't lost often. The Saints as a whole, I think it's been addressed that they need to play better. I want to pick against the Saints, but history tells me that in these big games, in the Superdome, regardless if you don't have Armstead, the Saints are just going to figure out a way, just like they figured out a way against the Texans. They figured out a way against the Panthers a couple weeks ago in the Dome. And like we talked about on here, I think it's going to be a point of emphasis. This has got to be the best Saints game of the season. And you talk about measuring stick games. The Saints haven't really been talked about in the national media. You see in the power rankings, which don't mean anything, that they're ranked 5th, 4th, and you'd almost rather it that way as a Saints fan to go onto the radar. But the 49ers on the other side, they're ranked 1, 2. So, all right, so the 49ers getting all this credit. How good are the Saints? And Sean Payton's using that as motivation. So history tells me the Saints are going to come out. They're going to win this game. It's going to be 27-24. I think it's going to be tight. So I'm picking the Saints.
Man, wanted to go against them, but ends up picking them. All right, George.
Southeastern. Going to advance. Nichols. Going to advance. LSU. Going to win the SEC championship. Tulane, I'm sorry, Tulane. We missed the boat this year. Saints in a league season defining victory. Put Louisiana on the football map to make everyone who doubts us pinch themselves. Saints are going to win 27-20, and it won't feel that close. This will be our best performance. And on all those silly Stephen A. Smith, Colin Coward, Max Kellerman shows, it's going to have everyone saying, are the Niners for real? Are they really that good? And they're going to talk about it all week because we are going to expose them. Am I a homer? Yes, but I believe this to be true nonetheless.
Well, I love it, George. So as I'm breaking this matchup down, it's very much immovable force, unstoppable object. Maybe I got that backwards. Immovable object, unstoppable force. They got the second best rushing offense behind the Ravens, but we have the third best rush defense in the league. So we are at risk of snapping that streak of, not allowing a 100-yard rusher. This guy, Colonel Moster, he's pretty good. Now they do like to go by committee, but Breda's been a little beat up. So I'm really enticed at that matchup, seeing what happens. I think our D-line will prevail. They're stout against the pass, but they can be had on the ground. And if Peyton just has the discipline to stick with it, he could put up upper 20s, low 30s of offense with a predominantly rushing attack. I think he just gets so hung up on, it's time to start throwing it, and we just get on these pass-happy series. But all that being said, I think this one's going to be pretty low scoring. I think it could be 20-17 Saints, and I think it is going to feel every bit that close. Maybe we even continue the kicking saga of opposing kickers, or maybe it comes down to a special teams play. So, all right, those are your game predictions, y'all. Now we got to kick it to a very special Ron of the Week tribute. We got a guy that just recently celebrated a birthday. We got a key contributor to the show when we got critical injuries that we don't understand because we don't know the human body as well as this guy does. George, tell the fans about the Ron of the Week this week.
Dr. Sivo, who got the Drew Brees diagnosis incorrect. He said it was going to be later than it actually was. Drew Brees beat the predictions, came back early. But your Ron of the Week is Dr. Chris Simo out of Elmwood, out of Harahan, now out of Houston, going to be in town under the overpass to sign autographs all Sunday pregame. I repeat, Simo will be under the overpass Sunday signing autographs as your official Ron of the Week.
Hell yeah, brother. Proud of you. Much deserved. Overdue. Hey, tell you what else is overdue. Another Sunday under the overpass, noon, starting to be routine. Everybody should be getting into that routine, getting out under that overpass earlier than 11, Boogie. I want to see you committed this week. You say you want the 1 seed. Prove it to the fans. Prove it to your bros. Prove it to you gals under the overpass. Propels Talk, don't tread on me. Don't try to step in on this territory, all right? Saints tailgating, leave it up to PST, amateur hour over at Propels Talk. Jay, any closing comments?
No, don't shoot, no fires. No shots fired. Pro Pels Talk does a great job, and they're cordially invited to merge campaigns here. No shots fired. We love you, Pro Pels Talk. They didn't mean
We're
that.
all under the same umbrella.
Yeah, Ron, we're under Gale's umbrella. That was too vicious. Hey, we love.
Oh,
Why create a rivalry?
Competition is gonna.
Competition's gonna. You over these remarks, not me.
Healthy competition's gonna bring the best out of everybody. That's all. So with that, any closing comments, Jay?
No closing comments. I love doing this with y'all. Let's go get this victory. Hey, I don't mean to sound so skeptical and so critical of the Houdas, George. Thanks for checking me on that. That's what best friends are for. But to be as successful as the Saints have been in the last 3 years, it's been fun. And it doesn't happen often. It hasn't happened at all in the history of this franchise. So I'm going to try to step back and enjoy it a little bit. Looking forward to seeing everybody on Sunday. Houdat.
And Ron, one more thing. We have sights and sounds from last week's UTO featuring Matt Habig.
What up, Houdats? Sweaters Vetters here, boots on the ground. We got a speaker under the overpass. We have a great showing. Boogie's showing up, purse and all. We got our boy Habig and our man George, and we're going to get some game day predictions. What we got, fellas?
All right, beautiful day. Great introduction from our boy Vetters here. But hey, guys, look. Under the overpass, beautiful Sunday, as predicted by Red. It's beautiful. We have everyone out here, but mainly we have our boy Habig, who is a big advocate, proponent of the podcast. Everything I says, he tells Red what we got right, but mainly what we got wrong. So this is his stage. This is his opportunity. This is his microphone for him to validate his claims of us being perpetually inaccurate, and he's going to break off some great information for you. Small picture today and big picture as a whole. Let him go.
What's up, guys? It's Habig. Honored to be under the overpass. A little uncomfortable because there was one girl here today, one more than typical, so it's a little weird, but first time, best time I've been here. My prediction of the day is shut down Christian McCaffrey. You shut down Christian McCaffrey, you win the game. Simple as that. Not much else to say. It's going to be another defensive dominant performance. You're going to see Demario Davis sniffing McCaffrey's jock, and the Saints are going to take care of a big W today.
What about Davenport?
Davenport, from what I'm hearing, is nursing a little bit of an injury. I think you got to hold off on the critiques while he's injured, but boy's got to show up if he's not injured.
What about Lattimore? Is he going to be all right soon?
Is he active today?
Out.
He's out today? I think you got to keep holding him out until he's 100%. That hamstring's been an injury since college. I think he sat out pretty much an entire season in college because of that hamstring injury.
Last question for our main man, Habig. Fact or fiction, Pels make the playoffs?
That is a fact. Zion Williamson coming back for the Nets game on December 17th. You heard it here under the overpass.
All right, y'all. Biggest game of the season yet. Let's go get that 1 seed. Pro Saints talk. We out here, baby.
Yeah. Huh? Come on. Huh? Yeah. Fifth floor weaving. New breed brass band. Let's get it. And no, you gonna stand up for this one. You gonna footwork off of this one. Believe that. Let's get it, huh? Come on. Oh, what you shaking it for? What you twerking it for? What you dropping it for? Booty popping it for? What you shaking it for? What you twerking it for? What you dropping it for? Booty popping it for? You can run, but you can't hide. Block jumping like a second line. You can run, but you can't hide. Block jumping like a second line.
And you already know this is another Andrew Simmons production.